everyone. Welcome to another episode of the QubicaAMF Tech Tip Podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we take you on a journey through the fascinating world of bowling technology and beyond. As always, I'm your host, Orly, and today we have a very special guest. We have Mark Henderson returning to the show. Mark, thank you again for joining us today. Mark, for those that maybe didn't listen to your last episode, can you let everyone know, your title within the company and what you do within that title?
Absolutely, Orly. This is Mark. I'm with tech support here at QubicaAMF, and I am in the Electro-Mechanical division.
Okay. And, last time Mark was on, I believe we talked Hyperbowl maintenance, if I'm correct. I do a lot of shows. Okay. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to that show and that's something you might want to take a listen to, feel free to go back and just, with that show and other shows, there's so much great information. So make sure you're listening to those shows, sharing it with your staff, your management, your ownership, or whoever you think might get, some great use of these shows. I know a lot of people do. So, and if you ever have any, certain questions or topics you might want us to cover, feel free to comment or send us an email or, there's a lot of different ways. You could send us a message on Facebook, tons of different ways to get in touch with us, and we will take a look at that episode and hopefully get it on for you. So today we're going to talk about, something I love, string machines. They're great. Easy maintenance, low maintenance. And one of the things I know a lot of people like to ask is, if they're on strings and the same pins are just coming down the same spot, like, isn't that pin getting hit like over and over and over and over? Which, yes, it's getting hit over and over, but that's the reason for a pin rotation. So, we're going to have Mark on to explain that because he knows more than me I'm sure he's going to tell us when you can do that, how you can do that, and anything else that might be important. So, Mark, without further ado, I'll let you take over from there and talk some pin rotation.
Sounds great, Orly. Yeah, the string machines do offer a lot easier maintenance, fewer moving parts, but you are absolutely correct. Unlike a free fall machine where the pins get scattered and then put back in the bin, there's oftentimes at least enough for two sets in the machine at any given time. The one pin might find itself in the 7-pin slot or the 5 in the 10 on the next attempted strike. But with the pin machines, they're all in the same order all the time. And some people are confused about the order of the pins. It's real simple. If you're standing up there at the foul line to take your shot, the first pin is number 1. And we go front to back and left to right. So you got the 1, and behind that 2 and 3. Then 4, 5, 6 in the second row, and then bringing up the rear 7, 8, 9, and 10. The ones that take the brunt on most bowler shots are right down the middle. It's the 1, 3, 5, and 9. And so in a pin rotation, what we're going to do, of course, do the lockout, tag out, power down the machine. And they simplified it from the earlier versions of the manual. And I'll touch base on the manual a little bit later. But essentially what you're going to do is take the first cluster of the 1, 2, 3, and 5 pin and move those to the back row. So now 7, 8, 9, and 10 on the back row are going to be the old 1, 3, 2, and 5. And then those pins that were in the back are going to come up front. And so now 7 is the 1 pin, 9 and 8 are 2 and 3, and the middle pin 5 is where the 10 pin is. Now you'll notice that the 4 and 6 stay in their respective spots. Those don't change. I would say if you're in a center with a lot of left-handed bowlers and maybe you're getting more hits on the 4 than the 6, you could swap those if you wanted. And so that's the basics, and they're outlined in the manual. And the place to go for that is technical resources, and that's the QubicaAMF.com tech resources. And I'll spell that for those of you who may have grabbed a pencil. It's your https://ConkMax, which is ConkMax.QubicaAMF.com/technical-resources. And yes, you're going to have 2 A's in a row with QubicaAMF in the middle there. So once you get the pin rotation done, and they recommend doing that about every 12,500 frames or every 1.5 months. And if you're maintaining the center there, you'll probably see that. And another great resource to keep track of it is your Tech Wizard app. That will bring up a reminder, kind of similar to the ones maybe you have on your enabled thermostat that says, hey, it's time to change the filter. It's just as simple as that. And also, if you need to replace a string on a pin, there is a string sleeve tool, which is 051-200-700. And if you go into Tech Resources, of course, you can find the tool on eShop. But if you go into Tech Resources and put that number in, it will bring up a video on how to actually change that. And all you need is a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, your pin hook, and that sleeve tool to pull it through that little sleeve if it needs replacement. So basically, you'd untie and remove the pin from the string, remove the string sleeve if it needs to be replaced, and install a new sleeve. Now, some people will say, well, what about the strings themselves? What if they're getting frayed and tired? The easiest way to replace a string is to take your new string and do a butt joint with some tape from the old string where it connects to the pin. You've taken the pin off, and attach that, and then just pull the new string over the pulleys and through the machine with the old string until you get to your tape joint, and voila, you've got your new string installed without having to crawl inside the machine and string it over the pulleys yourself. And there are manuals to show this pin rotation and all the stuff I've talked about in the standard manual and in the USB-C version of it. And they're very similar. If you go into Tech Resources and put in 400-051-202-02, you'll see your standard string pin Technical Resources Manual. Revision C is the latest one. The USB-C version is the same number except for the end. It's 400-051-247, also Revision C. And that is the sum and substance of doing your pin rotations. And I'll stop and take a breath. Orly, have I left anything out?
No, perfect. And I'll put a link, when I post this to Facebook, we'll put a link so you guys can find the graphic on pin rotation. And maybe look out for our blog. Maybe I'll do that too. Maybe I'll put up on a blog page. And I believe on Best Extras, our blog page, there is a page on edge string. So what I could do is maybe see if we get that up in there too. So we'll get it somewhere for you to find. It's there in the technical resources, but I'll also try to get a link to make it easier for people. And I guess the number one question too I would have would be, if someone isn't changing these, they're not rotating them out, what can happen? Can these pins break? Like what's some possibilities that could happen?
You'll start seeing increased wear. You might see a crack in the plastic coating on the pin, or you might see some blowouts occurring at the bottom of the pin. If you've got any wood showing, that's a bad sign. And so keep an eye especially on the 1, 3, 5, and 9 pin as you do that. And as I mentioned before, if the 4 pin is accelerated wear over the 6 pin, or vice versa, just swap those. But your main movement is going to be moving those first 1, 2, 3, and 5 pins to the back row, and pulling the 7, 8, 9, and 10s to the front, and just check to see if the pin sleeves are in good condition and the pins themselves aren't showing any unusual wear, and if they are, replace as necessary.
Perfect. Yeah, and like with those other products we have where we like to keep low maintenance, and there's not too many things that are no maintenance, but low maintenance. And when it's low maintenance, I know sometimes people might forget, like, oh, I don't really have to do that often, but just make sure you're still getting your stuff checked out and like rotating and stuff, because you want your product to last the longest that it can. And I think I think this was a great show, because I know a lot of people have string machines, and that's probably one of the first questions they probably have is, how do I rotate these, or when do I rotate these? So now, if anyone was wondering, they know, thanks to Mark. So Mark, I appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome. One last thing I'll run in there is it's always a good time as you're closing the reel door to just take a look and make sure those string routing coils, little pigtails, if you will, are tight and attached to their respective spots. If those get loose, it can hamper things and lead to tangles. And so it's a good time to just check that all the paths for the string are clear and working normally.
Perfect, Mark. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, if you haven't listened to past shows, make sure you're checking those shows out. So much information. And if you have any shows you might want us to do, feel free to reach out, and we will get on that. There's, just like Mark, we have a ton of professionals that work with us, so we know that we'll find somebody to answer the questions.
Yes, we're a team here. We have scoring folks. We have other EM techs. And so we're here to help you and back you up and get the most out of your machines and take care of your customers. And Orly, it's been great. I really appreciate having me on today.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on. And everyone, thank you for listening. Talk to you all soon. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks.